Welcome into Mississippi State Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Andrew Miller, joined by our guy, Christian Ballard. And it is call-in show time. We are here for our Thursday night show where you guys get the opportunity to join in and give us your thoughts on the Bulldogs, Mississippi State football, 3-0 here to start the season and trying to close out the non-conference portion of their schedule at a perfect 4-0 record and send themselves into SEC play undefeated, send themselves into SEC play, needing just a couple of wins to reach bowl eligibility, which would obviously be a huge thing for this season. For year two, Jeff Levy finding a way to make a bowl game. But in order to do that, you got to get through Northern Illinois. Earlier in the week, we had a big preview of that game and the matchup, what we were expecting. So definitely, if you did not get to see that show, go check that out on the channel. And we also have videos breaking down various parts of that show. So you, as much as we would love for you to go watch the full live show, you can go and watch individual segments if you want, sort of take it as you go. We have that over on the channel, which is why I should say right away, if you were not subscribed to Mississippi State Live here on the Voice of College Football, you need to be. What are you doing? Give us that subscription. Be sure to turn that notification bell on so you do know when we do go live. If you could, give us a like on the video, share the stream around. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you who has helped us continue to grow this thing, and we want to keep it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We will say right off the jump here, and I don't even know if there's anybody in the chat yet at this point because, as we know, sometimes the live viewer thing lies to us. But right now it shows a 0. We'll see if somebody's here or not. But if anybody is watching already at this point of the show, to join in for the live stream, we have the link pinned to the top of the private chat. We also have the link included in the description to the video. And just click that link. Keep your camera turned off, but we will bring you into the show and let you have it and give you the opportunity to talk about the Bulldogs, whether you want to talk about this matchup with NIU, what your thoughts are going into it, talk about the season thus far, talk about football or whatever. We're down for it tonight. But before we get into all that, because obviously we're still waiting around here, Christian, how's it been? What you been up to?
Work, some school work, and work. But it's been a good week. So I'll just, being an adult, man, just kind of living my life and everything like that. But we've had an interesting week of leading up to what should be a fun weekend of college football. Got some interesting games, obviously, in the SEC, which I'll let you lead into that later when we do our picks. But definitely what excites me, that Auburn-Oklahoma game is going to be something fun to watch. And then you got good games at noon like Texas Tech and Utah, Syracuse, Clemson. A lot of interesting ranked teams playing this weekend. And then yeah, man, it's just, my team's on a bye week, so I can't really say too much. But, at the same time, I just love to watch football regardless of who's playing. I think I've said that before. Speaking of, I love football so much. I got Rice and Charlotte on the TV right now. So that's how dedicated I am to this sport.
I almost flipped that on, but I was rushing to get dinner thrown together before the show, which I've still not eaten, but the dinner is mostly done. So I'll be able to eat once we get done with the show. But yeah, I just flipped on Thursday Night Football. How is, with the Bills and the Dolphins, how is Rice versus Charlotte looking so far?
Well, it just cut to commercial, but I don't think there's well, let me see here. I can pull it up. It's 7-3. Rice is in front of Charlotte. Charlotte is 1-2 on the year, and Rice is 2-1. Not that I think they've really played anybody of significance that I know of, but it is at Charlotte, and a pretty interesting game so far. It's really close in the first.
Those are two interesting programs to be. There's going to be two interesting programs to pay attention to over the next few years. Charlotte hiring Tim Albin from Ohio, who was a really good coach there in the MAC, and that's a program that it's been talked about for so long. Like, oh, well, you're in the Charlotte Metro. Like, could you turn this program into something? And like, they have no money, so like they might be in the middle of a big city but like they have no fan base. There's no investment into the program. But there's people have talked about the potential of the 49ers program for a while. But Albin's a good coach out of the MAC. So we'll see if he can. It's year one for him. I'm not expecting much from them, but see if he could build something there. Rice did something they should have done a long time ago, and they went and hired a coach who basically runs the triple option. I think the name is Abel, I believe, is the head coach's name. He came over from, I think it was Davidson College, and they run like a modernized triple option attack. And if you're a program like Rice, that is the thing to do to give yourself a chance. So they already opened up the year. Like Louisiana Lafayette's not very good, but Louisiana Lafayette's supposed to beat Rice. It was the first time ever that Cajuns have lost to Rice. Typically they dominate that. So it was cool to see them get the win to open up the year. We'll see if that program can do anything else as we're sitting here talking G5 football to open up. But hey, Mississippi State's got a G5 opponent. G5 football is always worth paying close attention to because there are good programs at that level, as Mississippi State saw firsthand a year ago against Toledo and the way that game went. And I've thought back to that game, with the way State lost it. Is there any doubt that State quit in that game? No, they definitely did. But that was also in the second half after they were already getting their butts whipped. I've thought back to that game a little bit, and it's like, yeah, even if State had played their best that night, I think we're talking about, losing by like 10 points or something to Toledo because they were still that much worse than the Rockets. Instead, you get bludgeoned and you were embarrassed, and you paid like $1.2 million or whatever the number was to come and take that butt whooping at home. Now you get a MAC program coming in Northern Illinois who just last year goes on the road and beats the eventual national runner-up in Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
The only team out of Ohio State to beat the Irish a season ago. And it's the team that also last year on the road at NC State lost by 7. A couple years ago, they've had a few other wins. They've had a few other close competitive losses with power conference teams. They pride themselves on the brand of football that they play where there's toughness and physicality, and they're not scared of anyone. And, even though they're a big underdog, they're going to come into Starkville ready to compete. And, Mississippi State's going to have to be on their best if they're going to get a win this weekend.
No doubt. And, I do think this is a game that you don't need to take lightly. I know people want to look at it as, it's a 3-0 SEC team against a high school. It is, but at the same time, Northern Illinois has had some recent successes we've talked about. They beat Holy Cross in week 1, 19-17. Didn't look all that great. I like the defense, though. Able to hold Maryland to 20 points, only scoring 9. This is a team, though, for Northern Illinois, and, kind of talk about, what we did on Tuesday or Monday. We talked about the quarterback situation with Josh Hoist. Is it Hoist? How do you say it?
Holst. It's an L.
Holst. Oh, okay. That's my bad. No passing touchdowns yet. He has taken 4 sacks. He's got an interception. They have their lead receiver has 89 yards. Diari Rogers, Siobhan Wright, 167 rushing yards, averages about 4.5 a carry. He's got a rushing touchdown. This is a team, Northern Illinois, that I would say looks a little bit worse on paper, but when you watch them play, they can play a good football game, especially along the lines of scrimmage.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the line of scrimmage for their defense, I would agree. The defensive line, they have Roy Williams and Jelani Williams, not related, but those are their 2 defensive ends. Those are guys that create a lot of disruption. They also have in the front 7 Quinn Erweiler at linebacker, who's a player that does a really good job of getting downhill and making plays at the line of scrimmage or behind. So they've got some good players up front. And when it comes to being able to limit a ground game, they do that very well. And for Mississippi State, obviously if you get the looks to be able to run the football, you want to be able to, and you need to be able to effectively. But I don't think State's just going to be able to go up and push them around up front. I think Northern Illinois' defensive front is going to give them a chance. And now on the back end of that defense, they have some deficiencies. You not terrible. They're still a pretty good secondary, but Maryland had some opportunities in the passing game, probably had more opportunities than they converted on. And I do think it's worth noting that Maryland game, I mean, they had I believe, 3 drives in the second half where they got deep down into NIU territory and didn't come away with points. They had one where they missed a field goal. They had one where they fumbled. They had one where they failed on a 4th down. So they easily could have put more points on the board, but you do credit NIU for being able to make those plays. And you talk about lines of scrimmage, like they are a team that wants to establish the run. When it comes to their offensive identity, they want to get their ground game going and be able to lean on their running game, eat up clock. They are fine. If you say we're going to run 17 plays and take 8 minutes off the clock and all we do is kick a field goal, cool. We'll take that all day if we're NIU because we ate up a bunch of time, kept your offense off the field, and, hey, we got points out of it, even if it's just a field goal. So they're a team like that wants to be able to get their run game going. And you mentioned the backs and Wright and Johnson Jr. Those are good playmaking guys. Now, where they are a little weak for a team that wants to establish things in the run game and wants to be a line of scrimmage team is their offensive line has struggled. You can get into the backfield against them quite a bit. You mentioned 4 sacks already against the quarterback. I think they've given up 12 tackles for loss to this point, something along those lines. So they're a team that you can certainly create some disruption against up front. And I think if you're State, you definitely are going to want to have as much of that as possible when it comes to what you are doing defensively against this team. You need to win the line of scrimmage battle on that end for sure. But yeah, look, this is a team that their whole idea is they want to keep things as close as possible, limit possessions, and make this thing a case where we get into the 4th quarter and one play can decide the game. That's the mentality that they want to take. And I think if you're Mississippi State, you have to do everything in your power to not let this game come down to one play.
You do. And another thing I'll point out about the Huskies run game, when you look at some of the numbers, it's interesting to see that their lead rushers, even though they both have over 250 combined or whatever it is, or at least over 200 combined. But I'll say this, Siobhan Wright, Telly Johnson, both over 100 yards, really good playmakers. But I don't know, and you might have to help me with this. I mean, are they not explosive in the run game? Do they not use it as effectively? And they like to do, because I noticed that they're averaging only 4 yards a carry, which nowadays I guess could be pretty good. It's not bad, but to have 38 carries for Siobhan Wright, 167 yards, but he only averages 4.4. His longest play is of 45 yards. I mean, it's something to look into there a little bit. I think that's something, if you're Mississippi State, turning back to the Bulldogs here, you got to be happy about that this is a team that doesn't really average a whole lot of yards per run.
So you mentioned Siobhan Wright. He has a long run of 45 yards, I believe is what you said.
That's his longest, yeah. But I had mentioned what both of these guys average, about 4 yards a carry.
Yeah, so on the season, it's 38 rushes for 167 yards for Siobhan Wright. He's got the 1 touchdown, and he did have a 45-yard run. That was in their season opener against Holy Cross. If you take out that 1 carry, he is averaging 3.3 yards per rush. Eesh. And then for Telly Johnson Jr., so on the season, 31 for 153 carries and a touchdown, about 4.9 yards per carry. So a little bit better, but still under that 5 yard per carry sort of threshold. He had a 74-yard touchdown against Maryland. And if you take that 74-yard touchdown out of it, he has 79 yards on 30 carries, which comes out to 2.6 a rush.
Yeah.
They've not been able to get much going, and it's not their fault. The offensive line in front of them is really bad. I think they have 1 all-MAC player at left tackle, but other than that, this was a concern for NIU coming into the year, is they were losing a lot of pieces up front of that O-line, and they just weren't able to backfill the way that they would have liked to. So if you watch, Holy Cross and Maryland you would expect as a power conference team, but Holy Cross as well, able to create a lot of disruption, able to get in the backfield. And it also goes into the passing game because Josh Holst, he's a little bit of a run threat, but he's not someone that teams are like, he's going to kill us if we let him run the ball. The bigger thing is that he hasn't been a passing game threat. He's completing 65% of his passes for less than 5 yards an attempt. It's a lot of quick dump offs underneath. They're not able to push the ball downfield. They don't have explosive playmakers in the receiving core that they can just like scheme up passing plays to. When the pass game is no threat like that, and you don't have an offensive line that can maul teams, it's really easy to just load the box and take away the run game. And basically say, like, we're going to force those running backs to have to be the ones to beat us. And they're talented players, but those guys can only do so much when everything else around them is so poor offensively. So, like, I think for sure, if they had better pieces around them, you would see a higher average. I also think knowing that Holst can run a little bit, I would be much more inclined to, go heavy. And because of how poor they are with the offensive line, I would go heavy misdirection. I would go heavy option type run schemes where I'm getting both those backs on the field at the same time, or we're running like triple option. Doesn't have to be old school flex bone under center. It can be out of the shotgun, but I would be doing a lot of like triple option type looks, and they just don't do a ton of that. They do it a little bit, but that's just not really where they make their bread and butter. And because of that, where it's a lot of just either just straight up classic zone read or classic inside zone and not much else, teams are able to get after them quite a lot. And I think if you're Mississippi State, that's going to be a big part of stopping that offense. And if you can do that, I think if you're State, you have a really good chance of getting the win. They're just not a great team up front offensively.
Yeah, and I think, if you want to go ahead and turn the table over to Mississippi State for I don't want to say the whole rest of the show, but for a little bit talking about State, I think you got to feel comfortable about that. Defensively, you mentioned the offensive line. That should get this defensive front 7, and you have linebackers like Darion Gillette, Nick Mitchell. You have all these guys from Mississippi State that need to feel confident going into this game. They have to feel comfortable. Don't get too comfortable, because that's how you kind of shoot yourself in the foot and make mistakes in a game. But like, you got to feel pretty confident, going up against I don't want to say it's terrible. Well, I mean, it might be, but it's not. It's not going to be the biggest offensive line you faced all season. And outside of just saying Mississippi State's going to win because it's SEC versus Group of Five, when you really look at it, Northern Illinois is a pretty good team the last couple of years. Like we mentioned on Monday, they beat Notre Dame a couple of years ago. They found a way to do it. So as Mississippi State, they got to be careful. But, having this game at home and then knowing that the quarterback's probably going to be in a position where he's going to have to run for his life for more than half the game, I think the defense has to come in with a chip on their shoulder.
For sure. I think defensively, you feel like you should be able to have the edge up front, right? Like you mentioned, State's got some guys in that defensive line and at linebacker that have played well to this point. They're still looking for some guys to emerge, especially now with Will Whitson down. You want to find some defensive linemen who can really step up for you, but you should have the edge in the trenches and be able to control the line of scrimmage. And I think you should also be able to trust that there's no reason I would think Kelly Jones, Diego Brumfield cannot hold up one-on-one in coverage downfield. If you're saying that, the focus has to stop in this running game, you got to trust your secondary to be able to hold up. And there was the stats coming out from a Pro Football Network. They were showing, the top graded corners to this point in the season. Both Brumfield and Jones were in the top 10 nationally. Kelly Jones had like the lowest completion percentage allowed, or whatever it was on throws at his way of all corners. Those guys have been really impressive to this point, and knowing that NIU just does not have those threats at receiver, and knowing they don't really have a quarterback that scares you that much, I think you trust your secondary to hold up, and you definitely say that we're going to go and we're going to take away that running game. Which I think that plays right into, we can talk about the keys to the game for Mississippi State to get a win here, to avoid taking an upset, which they definitely do not want to take. I've got my 3 keys to victory. And number 1, and this plays right off what I said, I think defensively, your approach needs to be stop the run over anything else. we've seen now in a couple of these games that State has played against lesser competition. They've taken that approach of being much more conservative, sitting back in coverage. We're only going to rush 3. We're going to trust that if they do run the ball on us, our defensive line will, do a good job of just holding up, and our linebackers and safeties can come in and make tackles for minimal gains. And, maybe they're going to get a few yards here or there, but we're saying that they cannot sustain that over a long drive and end with getting points on the board, because either they're going to mess up because college kids can't execute that consistently play after play after play without hitting big plays, or our talent just being better. The more snaps it takes them to get in the end zone, that's more chances for our talent to make a big play that gets them off schedule and gets the ball back to us. It's a great strategy. It makes a ton of sense. And I understand not wanting to give up the explosive play, because typically in a game like this, the explosive plays are what comes back to bite you. It's like, well, how did that team pull off an upset? They hit big plays. I hear all that. This is a game where I would say I would risk giving up some big plays, because I think NIU, if you say we're just going to sit back in coverage, even though they're fine saying, oh, we'll just hand the ball off and get 3 yards. And then we'll hand the ball off again and get 3 yards. And then we'll hand it off again and get another 3 yards. And then it's 4th and 1. And guess what? We're going to go for it. We're going to get 3 yards and we're going to convert. That's what NIU wants to do, because they really can't do much else. That's kind of what their approach has to be on offense. And sure, you would trust that State's defensive front could make enough stops that those 3-4 yards of carry wouldn't be enough for them. But I think that's a way that you let them stay on the field. That's a way that you let them sit on the ball, kill clock, and just take a bunch of time away that limits opportunities for you. So that's why if I'm State, I'm saying we're not going to let them. We're not going to let them nickel and dime their way down the field, because even though I don't think they can execute that well, letting Northern Illinois nickel and dime plays right into what Northern Illinois wants to do, and it's keeping the ball out of your hands. I would much rather say get them off the field. Let's be aggressive. Let's send a run blitz or something like that. Let's stack the box, and we trust that our guys in the secondary can hold up. We also trust their quarterback to not be able to make the throw. Let's go and make a play here. And look, maybe you do get beat over the top once. Maybe a couple times you miss a tackle and one of those running backs is off for a big run, because that does, when you sort of the opposite line of thinking, when you play back in coverage, you're more likely to give up consistent gains in the run game, but you're less likely to give up a big play because you have the guys who can come and make the tackle. If you load the box, you're less likely to give up consistent yardage, but you're more likely to give up the big run. And that's what happened with Maryland against NIU. NIU could not run the football consistently in that game, but they had one big run that got them within the game, and they were down a score in the fourth quarter because of it. Maybe that happens, but I think you have to trust that they cannot do that consistently enough over the course of a game. As much as the explosive plays are what can decide a game, I don't think Northern Illinois can hit enough explosive plays to keep up with Mississippi State. So I think if you're State, you definitely are just saying, we are just trying to get this team off the field. We don't want them possessing the football. Let's get the ball back to our offense as much as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, Northern Illinois, like you say, man, their offense is going to want to eat up all the clock. So, for those out there that say, well, what does it matter if we at least stop them from scoring? If you're Mississippi State offensively, you want to be able to put up as much points on the board as possible. And to do that, you have to limit their time of possession so you have the football, so you can have those opportunities to possibly put 45 or 50 on the board, as you probably should in this game.
I don't know if they're going to get 45, 50. I mean, I respect the NIU defense enough.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, though. You should be able to have a positive day offensively. That does lead into what my second key to victory here is for MSU. I'm trying to strike fast. I'm trying to go for the explosive play. State, in each of the first 4 games, has hit a big play touchdown on the first drive. They need to do the same this week. I guess they don't need to, but ideally, you get the same this week. Ideally, you get those big play touchdowns. I've talked a lot about I want MSU offensively to be more consistent. I want them to be able to sustain drives and not just rely on the big plays. This is a game, though, where NIU, if you hit some big plays on them and you get those quick strike touchdowns, I don't think they can keep up.
Right.
I think this is one of those games where you look at it and say, we can just have those explosive plays and that be enough, because if we hit enough of those, they can't keep up with us because their offense isn't going to be able to do enough. And their whole philosophy is keep our offense off the field so that we can have more, we can keep the ball out of their hands and limit the scoring opportunities for them. And I think if you're Mississippi State, you say, we'll just score as quickly as possible. Like, I guess that means the ball is coming out of State's hands. You're not possessing the football, but who cares if you're putting points on the board right away, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're getting points, so who cares about, like, at that point, the time of possession doesn't matter. But I think from a time of possession standpoint, it's weird. I want low time of possession for Northern Illinois offensively, but I also want low time of possession for NIU defensively. Like, I want to get their offense off the field quick, and I want to score quick. That's what I think MSU wants to do. And I think going for the explosive plays, and I think getting them out of it early on is the big thing. Like I mentioned, NIU's whole philosophy is they want to keep this thing close so that in the fourth quarter, one play can determine this game, give us a chance. If you're State, as I said early on, you don't let this come down to one play. You put enough on the board and execute well enough that it doesn't come down to a situation like that and you just are able to coast. I think you're going for the big strike. And, hey, Brennan, like, their secondary is okay. They haven't seen receivers like Brendan Thompson and Anthony Evans, and I think you're taking shots to those guys in this game early and often.
I think you are. I think you have to. I mean, you like you said, you don't let it come down to one play for Northern Illinois, but also for State. You don't let it come down to let's get one big play in this game. Like, this is that opportunity to strike fast in the game, yes, but keep it going each drive. If at any point you give up half to punt or something, okay, cool. Maybe you stalled out, couldn't convert on third down, whatever. But for the most part, I think for State, this game is an opportunity to get different wide receivers, whether they're starters or maybe if you're up big at some point or big enough, maybe you rotate some bodies in that receiving core, get some other guys out there that, maybe need to step up and show that they can play that position pretty well too. You want to do that, but you also just want to make big plays. And when I say make big plays, I'm not saying like hit the end zone every single play, but like, let's say if you start out at your 25-yard line, you get that touchback, you're at the 25. You want to hit a 25-yarder, get to midfield or something like that, and then hit another 25-yarder, and then like just consistently moving the football in such a well fashion manner, or however you want to put it, just in a really good way for State, I think is what's going to be very successful in this game. And I think it's what they might want to do. Like, I would not be surprised if Jeff Levy's kind of talking about that this week.
Well, you actually talked about receivers finding other guys to step up. He was asked about Aiden Williams in the middle of the week, the transfer from Ole Miss, who previously was like a top 3 player within the state of Mississippi, was a really highly rated receiver coming out of high school, goes to Oxford. And it's like both years he was there was so much excitement around like, oh man, this guy looks awesome in camp. And like, this guy's awesome in practice. And then he doesn't really produce in the games because he doesn't really get on the field. They sort of kept the other guys out there in front of him. Transfers from Mississippi State for a fresh start. And I think he was one of those guys that there was a lot of excitement around. And to this point, I think it's 2 catches on the year. Hasn't really gotten involved all that much. It's kind of similar to the way things were going for him at Ole Miss. Jeff Levy was asked about him and said, yeah, he's been dealing with a hamstring thing the first few weeks. This is the first time that he's he didn't say fully healthy, but he said this is the healthiest he has been since he got here. And if Aiden Williams is able to finally like take some of that talent now that he's supposedly more healthy and show that on the field in this game and flash some potential, that'd be big for State going forward. Jordan Mosley, who's obviously been around for a long time now, had an okay season a year ago, but sort of was up and down. Haven't gotten him involved much this year. He's got the one big catch for the touchdown against Alcorn last week, but just haven't really seen him this year. Blake Shapen came out and said, yeah, we got to get him going more. I've had opportunities to hit him, and I just haven't yet. I've got to do a better job of that. So you could find some other guys and get them involved in this game. And to the other point of consistently finding success on offense, I will say, look, if State's able to come out and is able to just work their way down the field, sustaining drives, over hitting the big plays, I would take that too. I love the explosive plays. I would love to completely put it out of reach. There is part of me that's like, it would be a good sign for them long term if we saw them just moving the ball consistently, which is not something they've done all that well this year. But for the purposes of this game, in terms of making sure that it's an easy win, those quick strike touchdowns early in the game are going to be big. The last thing for me, the final key, I think if you're State, it just comes down to don't waste opportunities. Like when you get in the red zone, put it in the end zone. When you don't fail on a fourth down. Don't miss a field goal if you attempt it. And it goes for the other side of the ball too. Don't let NIU convert a bunch of fourth downs on you. Don't let them find ways to capitalize on like a trick play or something like that. If you're Mississippi State, the way you keep NIU in this game is missing out on chances. I think I mentioned a few minutes ago talking about Maryland against NIU. That's a 20-9 final score where Maryland had like 3 second-half possessions where they got deep down into NIU territory and didn't come away with points because they missed a field goal. They had a fumble, and they had a fourth down that they didn't convert. Like, they easily could have had another 10-plus points on the board, if not more. And then we're not even really – and then it's like, okay, well, they scored 30-plus and gave up less than 10. What are we even talking about? But it was a close game because Maryland did not capitalize on those chances. And NIU is a team that if you don't put them away, they'll just keep finding ways to fight back into it. So if you're State, you can't have the turnovers. You can't let them convert fourth downs. You can't fail in the red zone. Like whatever opportunities you get, especially because, look, as I talked about, you don't want to let NIU possess the ball, but what if they do? What if they find ways to hold on to the football and are killing clock? Well, then those possessions become all the more valuable. If you're State, you got to capitalize. When you get the football, you got to put points on the board. Simple as that. If State does those things, I think they win this game comfortably. And it's not being disrespectful to NIU. I think they're a great program. Hammock is a fantastic coach. But this year, they're just not quite the same as what they've been the last few seasons. And if they find a way in this game, to me right now, it would say more about Mississippi State getting in their own way than it would NIU coming in and being able to make a lot of big plays.
Yeah. Like I say, man, Mississippi State's the only one that can get in their way in this game. And, you got to limit opportunities for NIU because there is obviously like NIU seems like that team that just, if an opportunity is there, they can take advantage of it and possibly will. So I don't know. I just think that, like you got to feel comfortable in this game if you're Mississippi State. You got all this momentum going into it, especially after that Arizona State win. I know it's been a couple weeks, and I know Jeff Levy probably has this whole 24-hour rule like everybody else where you celebrate and then you move on. But if I'm Mississippi State, like I think I'm using that as a tactic and building block for we can go out and compete against anybody and almost anybody we can beat. We got the Tennessee game coming up in a couple weeks. I think is going to be a really, really good game. And yeah, it's something to look forward to. And I think that Mississippi State has all the momentum.
Yeah, you talk about just coming out and handling business and mention that Tennessee game. I thought last week against Alcorn, as much as that game was never going to be in doubt, and State could have played horrifically and still won easily because of how bad Alcorn State is, It was a good sign that they came out firing on all cylinders. I took it as a sign of a mature team that coming off a win against Arizona State and what that win meant for the program, all the emotions of it, all the fire behind it, all that was great. And then you have this terrible FCS team coming to town. It would have been so easy to just lay down and be like, hey, man, we don't want to be out here. We're just going to kind of just fool around, and we know we'll win. And instead, they took it to them and laid it on. That was a good sign. You need to show a similar fire this week because unlike Alcorn State, NIU, if you mess around, they'll find ways to hurt you. And I want to see that again, that they are genuinely taking that 1 week at a time approach. We want to be, I think Jeff Levy says we want to be 1-0 so that we can be 4-0. We have to handle business this week. And yeah, Tennessee and SEC plays coming up. Yeah, those can be big opportunities. Those are not going to be big opportunities if you fool around to find a way to lose this game. I like the comment Britt Key after Georgia Tech beat Clemson. They had him like the post game in the locker room talking with the guys, and he told them like next week is now bigger because you guys won this week. And he made the point of like you get to have next week be this awesome opportunity because you handled business this week. It's got to be the same thing for Mississippi State. If you want games against Tennessee and Texas A&M and whoever else on the schedule to matter, you have to handle business in this game. You cannot be looking ahead. You have to focus on, we beat Northern Illinois. Let's handle business. Let's move ahead. Get into our SEC picks for the week, and we will say, if anybody is joining in here, still, hey, it's a call-in show. It is an opportunity. We have the link to join the stream pinned to the top of the chat. It is also in the description of the video. Just click that link. Keep your camera turned off. We want to keep faces private as much as possible for the guests joining into the show when y'all do. And, then we'll bring you into the stage and let you be a part of the show. But for now, we'll see if anybody joins in. That'll be awesome. If not, hey, that's fine too. We're going to make our SEC picks for the week, although it's not just the SEC. We also pick the biggest games across college football. Looking back on week 3, a 7-3 week for me, 6-4 for Christian. We were both correct about Alabama bludgeoning Wisconsin. I took Georgia. Christian took Tennessee. That game could have gone either way, but really close one there. I went with the Rebels. He went with Arkansas, so there was a difference. We both had LSU beating Florida. I took Texas A&M. He took Notre Dame, so that was another difference. We had a lot of differences. We both took South Carolina, and we were both wrong because Vandy took it to him. And my initial judgment, I'm annoyed myself because earlier in the week I said, there's no reason South Carolina's winning this football game. And then I was like, God, everything tells me Vanderbilt should win. Am I really going to trust Vanderbilt football? Let me flip my pick to South Carolina. Should have trusted my gut. South Carolina's the better football team. We were both incorrect there. You stuck with the upset for Georgia Tech. I thought Clemson would show that they are still a good enough team to get the win, and Clemson keeps getting in their own way. So you were correct on that one. We both had Miami beating South Florida. And then on the backyard brawl, I went with Pitt. You went with WVU, and the Mountaineers get it done in a crazy game right there at the end. Obviously, we both took Mississippi State to get in the blowout. So 7-3 for me, 6-4 for you on the season. I am 19-11. You've got a 2-game lead at 21-9.
Nice.
Yeah. We'll see
if I can keep it up.
Ground. Yeah. We got plenty of time for me to make up ground, but we'll see how it goes this week. Fun slate of games for week 4 of the college football season. A lot of ranked matchups, both inside the SEC and nationally. We start in the Big 12 for an early kickoff. Number 17, Texas Tech, goes on the road to Salt Lake City against the 16th-ranked Utah Utes. Texas Tech, this is like their year. They went all in, spent an absurd amount of money on their roster. Utah, they're trying to be the program they said they would when they joined the Big 12. Should be a really fun, important game early in the season. Which way do you go?
Think you could go either way. Spread's 3.5. It favors Utah. Noon game at Utah.
10 o'clock local time.
10 o'clock local time, yeah. I don't know. Because it's an offensive league in the Big 12, and both teams have a lot of momentum here, 16 versus 17. I'm going to go small upset here with Texas Tech. Not sure about a score, but, I do trust Utah's defense better than I trust Texas Tech, but I feel like the Big 12 is a league where you have to be able to score. And on paper, they've looked like they've had the better offense with their quarterback, Byron Morton. Yeah. 923 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, only 1 pick. Yeah, give me the Red Raiders here.
I'm going to go Utah. You talk about needing offense to win in the Big 12. Utah's got an offense. Devin Dampier at quarterback is really good. They've got an outstanding offensive line, maybe the best offensive line in the Big 12. They run the crap out of the football. And I think they're going to be able to find ways to do that at home. Texas Tech does have a good defensive front, which will make that a bit of a fun challenge. But you kind of talked about trusting Utah's defense more. I do trust their defense more. It's at home, at elevation. Texas Tech, early start. How's that going to go for them on the road? And I think Utah can still score enough points. So I will take the Utes to get the win in Salt Lake City. Fun game in the Big Ten. Number 21, Michigan, and freshman phenom Bryce Underwood go on the road to take on, I was about to say Northern Illinois, Nebraska, and quarterback Dylan Raiola. Is Nebraska for real? This is kind of the thing we are trying to figure out. They look good. This looks like it could be the breakthrough year for Matt Rule there. But Michigan, even though they lost to Oklahoma, the Michigan's still obviously talented, still a good team. Nebraska has to hold serve at home if we're really going to trust them going forward. Who gets the win?
Well, first off, I'll shout out someone in our college football community, Nate the Great, who's a two-teamer, Michigan and Nebraska. So we're calling this game the Nate the Great Bowl. So shout out to him. He doesn't. He wants Nebraska to win. I'm pulling for him too, man. But I also think it being at Nebraska, 3-0 start for I think it said the first time since 2017 or 2018, something like that. It's been a minute since they've been on this type of run, and I think Matt Rule's doing a good job. It's almost a 50-50 game. Um, I just I like Bryce Underwood. I really do. I think he stepped up big as a freshman this year. I really love Dylan Raiola, though. I think he's better with the stats. I just currently I don't know if I would say he's a better talent, but I feel like he's a little bit more mature. Now, in the run game, I take Justice Haynes for Michigan. So it's kind of one of those things where you go back and forth between the offensive position groups. But my gut says I like Nebraska's defense a little bit more than Michigan's right now, based on what I've seen. And, take them at home. Go Big Red.
I'm also going to go with Cornhuskers. I just like them a little.
Yeah.
I think they're a slightly better team, and I think playing at home, they do get the win. I think obviously Raiola cannot do the things John Mateer did in the run game, but some of what Oklahoma was able to find success with in that game offensively, I think Nebraska can apply some of the same philosophies. So I'll take them to get the victory at home. Top 20 matchup in the Big Ten, Illinois at Indiana, which that is still a weird thing to say that is a top 20 matchup. But number 9, Illinois on the road at number 19, Indiana. I believe the Hoosiers are about a touchdown favorite in this game, despite being the underdog, which typically that points to, what does Vegas know? But should be a fun game. Early playoff implications for both of these teams. Can Illinois with a ton of hype coming into the season, Indiana coming off their playoff appearance a season ago. Which way do you roll?
This will be a game that we call on Ballard Sports Media this Saturday night. We'll be live around 7:30 Eastern when the game kicks off. So y'all come check it out. But as far as who's going to win the game, I mean, this is Andrew. Does this not give you the vibes to just pull out a quarter and flip it to see heads or tails? Like, I really don't know if it's really one sided. I mean, they're favoring Indiana being at home here by 6.5, and the matchup predictor gives them a 62.8% chance to win. I'm liking Illinois a little bit more here. I think that they have momentum as a top 10 team, number 9 right now. I think Luke Altmaier is playing out of his mind. I also think Fernando Mendoza, who comes over from Cal, is looking pretty good too. But I don't know. I feel like Altmaier and company could get pretty comfortable in this game, and I don't want to say they blow them out or run away, but I feel like they'll be comfortable enough they can win this thing maybe by 10 points or so. We'll see.
I think it'll be closer than that, but I'm also taking the Illini. I like them a little bit better. I think a little bit more complete of a team. Like Luke Altmaier a lot. I will take the Illini to get the win on the road, but should be a good competitive game. Moving over to the Big 12, we have Arizona State, who bounced back to their loss in Starkville, which Arizona State fans are still whining about on social media. I'm so sorry that you guys couldn't handle cowbells. The noise may be artificial, but the L you took ain't. They bounced back and beat Texas State, but they are on the road at Baylor. So
Mm-hmm.
Robertson versus Sam Levitt should be a really fun matchup of quarterbacks to this point. Baylor defensively has not been very good, so maybe that's the thing that will be the recipe to fix the ASU offense right now. Who do you take?
Oh, this is tough. I like Sawyer Robertson right now. I think he's like red hot with his offense, being a good leader, already over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, only 2 picks. The running back with Bryson Washington, 66 carries for 304 yards and 4 touchdowns. Uh, when in doubt, I take the home team, but I would not be surprised if the Sun Devils get a big win here. I mean, I'll stick to Baylor. The Big 12 is wide open, Andrew, for really anybody, but I could see a scenario where Baylor creeps up the standings in the conference, and maybe either outside looking in, or maybe they take a shot and make the Big 12. I don't know. I like them right now.
Yeah, Baylor's defense does worry me some.
Yeah.
How many points they can give up. But that said, they're playing at home. Arizona State, even knowing some of the struggles that Baylor might have defensively, they've been so inconsistent on offense. I just can't necessarily trust them to put a ton of points on the board. And I trust Sawyer Robertson to make more plays at this point. And I also we saw Mississippi State. Yes, they weren't able to be consistent against Baylor, but they both those teams do some similar things offensively. And some of the opportunities State had in the passing game, I think Baylor's going to have the same thing. So I'll take the team with the better quarterback at home, and I'll take Baylor to get the win. Moving over to SEC play, a couple games in the non-conference that could be interesting. Arkansas goes on the road to Memphis. And there's a lot of programs, Mississippi State included, that understand going to the Liberty Bowl is anything but a guaranteed win. Memphis this year, their coach is making fun of Georgia players for getting arrested all the time, which is very funny. They're kind of a different look team with a much more of a running quarterback in that approach this year with Brendan Lewis, but still a tough place to play. Should be a big crowd, although I'm sure plenty of Arkansas fans will be in attendance. But a tricky place to go. Who gets the win? We saw Arkansas's defense this last week.
Yeah, we did. Now, granted, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Ole Miss is going to be a killer offense no matter what year with Lane Kiffin. I mean, that's fair. Oh, I have loved Memphis defensively. Offensively, I feel like point wise, it's regressed each game, but it still looks pretty solid. I do like their quarterback, Brendan Lewis, who has over 600 yards passing. But then you also got to look at the other side of the ball with Arkansas and Taylor Green. Only 2 picks, 11 touchdowns, 866 passing through the air. Arkansas has better numbers, at least on offense. You know what? Arkansas is going to take some losses this year. Now, we can make fun of them after the fact. I'm leading Memphis here at home. I think they're coming in pretty hot here. I'm gonna go upset in the SEC this weekend. Go Memphis. Go Tigers.
I'll buck the trend. I think Arkansas wins big.
Okay.
I know I did all that talking about the Liberty Bowl and everything. I need to see this Memphis team against a competent opponent before I take too much away. Taylor Green is playing at a Heisman level quarterback. He has been very impressive to this point, far better than I thought he would be. I thought he would take a step forward, but I was never that impressed with him last year because the only time he looked good was against Mississippi State's defense, which, what does that say? Last season, it doesn't say much at all. But I think he has taken a huge step forward. They've found some weapons on that team. Their offensive line's better than I thought it would be. I don't think Memphis has the horses on defense to be able to slow them down. And I just think Arkansas, look, no, their defense is not good. I'm sure Memphis will be able to put a few points on the board. I could see this definitely being a high-scoring affair. But I trust Arkansas's offense to make far more plays when it's all said and done. And I know they're a bad defense, but they're still an SEC defense ultimately. They can make enough stops. Yeah, I'll take Arkansas. I think this is a game that there's going to be a lot of attention on, and I think the Hogs end up pulling away. Big
I'm
game of the
not
day. Go ahead.
I'm not gonna change my pick, but I know I'm eating my words this weekend on this one.
I mean, to be fair, Memphis was not very good in 2021, and Mississippi State went up there and lost. And that was
Yeah,
that was a Mississippi State team that was, frankly, they were better than their final record. They went 7-6. That team should have won like 9 games, but
yeah,
like that team, like State went up there, fooled around, and found a way to take the loss. So I'm not saying it can't happen. I think the Memphis program might be getting a little bit of credit here, and I think Arkansas is actually the better team by quite a
for
bit.
sure. Yeah,
But by a lot, I guess is what I mean. As opposed to typically where we'd say, oh, these teams really aren't that far apart. Big game of the day within the SEC. Number 22 Auburn on the road at number 11 Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold makes his return to Norman. Both these teams undefeated. Both these teams have big expectations for the year. Both these teams have coaches who really need to have good years if they're going to be around next season. This is an early important game for both sides. Who do you take?
Oh, um, the only thing that stands out about this game is Jackson Arnold um, facing his former team. I made a video Tuesday, I think, talking about this game, giving a pick. I don't remember what I had score wise. Um, I do expect Auburn to take some losses this year, a couple of them. Back-to-back road games, though. Don't overlook Oklahoma for a trip to A&M. I feel like Jackson Arnold, which again, I'm gonna be honest, man. Like I know that he kind of got swapped out a little bit last year for Michael Hawkins at times, but did we ever find out why he transferred?
Well, they were ready to move on. I think that was kind of a case of like both sides needed a fresh start.
Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't like any bad rap or anything bad between there was no bad blood or nothing. So I don't know. I don't think he's looking to really go out with a vengeance against Oklahoma, nor do I think Brent Venables is defensively like looking to have vengeance against Jackson Arnold. That being said, um 7.5 point spread here. Ooh, this is gonna be a fun game. I like Auburn. I like Auburn here. I do like Oklahoma a little bit more offensively. I think John Mateer is just having a lights out performance this year, for real. But I don't know. I like Auburn. I like their receivers a little bit more, but I also trust their defense a little bit more than I do Oklahoma's. I think both are pretty solid so far this season. I think they've had some issues here or there too, but overall, when I look at it, Andrew, I got to go with the Tigers here. Part of me hopes I'm wrong because I'm an Alabama fan, so keep that in mind.
So you mentioned the feelings of Venables and Arnold in this game. I
Hmm.
would agree that from Brent Venables' perspective, he's been very, very kind with what he has said about Arnold. He's been very frank that we did not put him in a position to succeed last year, and that's on
Yeah.
us. And that he wishes him well and everything. And I think he's genuine with that. But I also don't think that means he's not going to dial up a game plan perfect for stopping Arnold. I think Arnold will come in looking for vengeance. I don't think it's going to matter. I think Oklahoma's got the better defense personally by quite a bit. Auburn defensively has not blown me away to this point. Um, I know they've got a few pieces, but I think that Auburn secondary, Oklahoma's going to be able to take advantage of. And I definitely think Mateer can still make plays with his legs. And so I think offensively, I trust John Mateer and the Oklahoma offense to make more plays. Jackson Arnold can
Okay.
run around a lot. I get Auburn has awesome receivers. He still has not shown the ability to consistently connect with those receivers. And until that happens, I'm not going to trust him on the road against a really good defense. This is not the Baylor defense that was giving up and letting him run the ball at will the entire night. Oklahoma will be much more attacking. I think the Sooners going to win here. I won't be
Okay.
surprised if they end up winning, like cover that spread and win comfortably when it's all said and done. So yeah, I like the Sooners. Another one of those.
Would real
Go ahead.
quick though, if Auburn does pull an upset, would that surprise you in any way?
Floored, no. Like, can I look? If you told me Auburn just ends up being the better team, I always like go back and forth. This I can be like very adamant on a prediction, but at the same time, if you told me the other thing happens, I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah. Like I can see a world where it happens. Like if Arnold is able to find a connection with those receivers and Auburn's defense is a little bit better than I think, okay, yeah, they can go on the road and win this game. I think Auburn has a chance. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think the team who is more likely to win comfortably to me is Oklahoma. So I just like them better on both sides of the ball. So I'm going to take them to get the win at home.
Okay.
Ultimately, another one of those games in the SEC where we have a G5 team against an SEC team that's got a really good offense but a questionable defense. Tulane goes on the road to number 13, Ole Miss. Have to think it'll probably be Trinidad Chambliss again for the Rebels. Don't really see the point in playing Austin Simmons when he is clearly still hurt, and when you also clearly do not need him to be successful offensively. But we know, look, John Summerall, one hell of a coach, a guy who will get that Tulane team ready to go. We also have seen Ole Miss defensively has a lot of lapses, so maybe Tulane with Jake Retzlaff at quarterback can put some points on the board. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Tulane's look pretty good. Ole Miss as well. It being at home, we know it's tough to be on the road in the SEC. I just I think Austin Simmons, I think Harrison Wallace, the wide receiver, the lead receiver that is for Ole Miss, over 300 yards receiving already. Retzlaff, on the other hand, has looked pretty good for Tulane, though. He can run that ball pretty well. I don't know if I necessarily I like Ole Miss to win, so go ahead and lock me in for that. I don't know if I trust their defense completely yet, but I don't think that Tulane has enough offense to pull an upset.
I would say Tulane defensively just has not been overly impressive to this point, and I think Ole Miss's offense will be able to get enough done. I will definitely take the Rebels to get the win here, but I would love to see Tulane win. South Carolina at Missouri. Still don't fully know the status of Lenore Sellers, although I guess the injury report's out, but I'm not going to take the time to check it for the week, as it doesn't really matter to me. I'll just go ahead and make my pick here. I think Missouri's winning this game by a lot because I don't think South Carolina is a very good football team.
I had high hopes for South Carolina going into the season. We don't know Lenore Sellers going into this game. Even if he does play, he's not going to be himself. He's not going to be 100%. I'm going to agree with you and take Missouri, but I will say that going into the season, I was very high on the Gamecocks, and so far, I don't think they're living up to what I thought they would be. But I'm going to roll with Missouri here with you, Andrew.
Sorry if there's still a clock going off in the background. I'm in that spot again where there's a clock, and I couldn't get the thing turned off. Miami hosting number 4 Miami hosting Florida. I'll just go ahead and let you make my pick so that people don't have to listen to this stupid clock in the background. Who do you got?
I mean, Sunbelt Billy's still at Florida, and he knows what he's doing. Just kidding. I don't think he knows anything of what he's doing. Miami's just a better team. Miami had some issues, a little bit this season, but they come into this game 3-0. They're undefeated. They had a close one and a convincing win, I think, with Notre Dame. They blew out USF, who did beat Florida. I'm just hyping up Miami, man. I'm simply taking Miami, not because of Miami. I really don't think Florida's all that this year. I think they're a really bad team this year. I feel like they're poorly coached right now. I'm not going to call 2-10 for them like Florida State was last year, but it would not shock me if they're anywhere close to that.
Look, I think it's a certain point Florida is going to find a win or two against a quality team because, look, they hadn't thrown 5 interceptions. They beat LSU last week. But that is part
Mhm.
of the problem. And we bring that up because, how often do you have a 5 interception game, right? But
Right.
at the same time, that's part of the problem is that offense is just not working. DJ Lagway has not taken a step forward. They've got such big problems offensively. And against the Miami defensive line that can create the problems they can, look, I'm sure their defense will make some plays. I don't think they're going to get run off the field here, but Miami's been very impressive at this point. I'll be honest, here early in the season, Miami looks like a legitimate national championship contender with what they're able to do on both lines of scrimmage and with the way Carson Beck is playing. They might be their offense is not as good as last year. Obviously, their offense is not going to be as good as it was with Cam Ward, and they had better weapons last year. If you told me they're a more complete team this season because of what they can do on defense, it wouldn't completely shock me. So I'll definitely take the Canes to get the win, although I think Florida probably keeps it more competitive than maybe some are thinking. Last but not
Yeah.
least, let me double check, make sure I have all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Yeah. Last game, Northern Illinois at number 23. Oh my God, we're not number 23. Missouri is number 23. I put that in the wrong place. Northern Illinois at Mississippi State. Look, we had our preview earlier in the week. We basically did a lot of the same stuff here in this episode earlier. So if you missed that, go back and check it out. I talked about our keys to victory for the Bulldogs. I think we both expect the Bulldogs to get a win, although maybe you'll surprise me here. You've called a couple upsets on this show, so we'll see what you have. But ultimately, what's your prediction? And give us a score.
I'll go ahead and give a score of 45-3. I think we are comfortable in this game, and I'm not going to call any upsets. I I think we could coast to a win, man. I think we'll do it, and I think that Shapen and company find a way to be very explosive offensively, and I don't know. I'm feeling like this defense is going to be ready to go.
I wouldn't go. I'm not going that big, but I mean, hey, I like the optimism. I think if State plays a perfect game, I could see it. Um,
Hmm.
I'll give NIU enough credit that they'll make a few plays here or there, but I still
Oh
ultimately have
yeah.
Mississippi State covering this point spread. And I think my score is like maybe a point or two different than what I predicted earlier in the week. I'll go 33-10 Bulldogs. And it's not about overlooking NIU. I understand respecting that program, but I am more looking at this. Everything I've seen from this game on paper, if State comes out and plays well, they should be able to win this football game. If the State team we have seen to this point this season shows up, I think they'll find a way to win comfortably. I just
Yeah.
think the fact that they can key in on the run game helps them out a lot here. I don't think NIU can hit enough big plays to stay in it. And I think State's offense is just going to be far better than any offense that NIU has seen at this point. I mean, look, Holy Cross is 0-3, and their offense has sucked in all 3 games. Maryland averaged less than 5 yards a play against Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic is not good defensively. So I don't think Maryland's offense is particularly good either. Like, I get NIU defensively. It's a strong program. Historically, they've played well the first 2 weeks. I think their numbers are being helped out a little bit by a couple bad offenses that they've seen. And I think Mississippi State's a good offense. So State's able to put enough points on the board to win this thing comfortably and not have it in doubt. So both of us have the Bulldogs moving to 4-0, which would set up, as we talked about earlier, a huge opportunity later in next week against Tennessee to open up SEC
Hmm.
play. But again, got to handle business. Can't sleepwalk through this game. But I'm confident that everything that went down last year with Toledo, everything that's you can point to with this team in IU, with what they did to Notre Dame, how competitive they were able to be with Maryland. I think Jeff Lebby's got plenty of bulletin board material, not in the disrespectful way, but in the way of hyping up the opponent to get his team locked in, ready to go. And I think the Bulldogs will
Yeah.
take it seriously and be able to get the win. That'll do it for us tonight. If you have not already, we appreciate it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on, and do share us. Let's keep this thing growing as we continue to try to put out really good content throughout the college football season, which seems to be a much more fun and enjoyable year for the Bulldogs so far than maybe we were even expecting coming in. But we'll see how that is after this week. Got to get through this one before we start to feel really good. There's always going to be that, what are they going to do? Got to see it first.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will be back with the post-game show following the game against Northern Illinois. We'll recap whatever happens. Again, no set time on that. Try to get it within an hour of the game, but depending on how things play out, we'll just see what time that's able to be. But sometime Saturday evening, I'll go live here on the channel to recap the Bulldogs versus NIU, and then next back on Monday to look ahead to State's SEC opener with the Tennessee Volunteers. That'll do it for us today. Thanks to Christian for hopping on. Thanks to everybody for listening. And as always, swing your sword. Hail State.
See ya.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.